of curiosity, in the general channel, can anyone tell me whether or not they can see the add note or stop recording button? I'm hoping that no one can see the stop recording button, but uh, maybe it's worth checking.
You're looking into sleeping.
Okay.
I cannot see it. I don't see it myself.
Yeah, I can see it in the general and can stop the recording with a click.
I'm gonna delete that message then. I need to set up a separate channel then for that. Let's see. All right. I think we should be good there. Let's see here. I will give a couple more minutes. I think we've got confirmed around 50 people. So, out of those 50, we'll see who show up, hoping we get more than that. But if not, no big deal. I think this is just the first introduction for everyone to SoulBound and why you guys are here. And with the recording, I think people will be pleasantly surprised by what we're about to go into. So, thank you everyone for being here. We're going to give it a few more minutes and then we'll get started.
Oh yeah, on our end, we're absolutely thrilled to meet everyone here. We've been lurking in the Influence Discord for a little bit. We've been a big fan of the project, and so officially getting to meet some people. I see a number of people from the first in the audience already, and I know there's a lot of people here that are very intricately involved with the project, and we're thrilled to get to meet you for the first time. So no need to wait too long, although we're happy to wait a moment so that people get a chance.
Yeah. We'll let Tony's caffeine kick in.
How did you know?
Because no adult who gets up at 4 a.m. survives without at least a little caffeine.
I tell you, the three children is pretty useful to get used to that. Just often being up in the middle of the night for all sorts of hours, all sorts of problems, and changing beds and sorting kids out. It just helps you get used to it all.
So do parents go into this knowing that they're just not going to sleep ever again, or is this just a rude awakening every time you have a child?
No. Here's the thing. They tell you, you just don't understand what it means.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You're like, oh, so sleepy. No. Sleepy means you get to sleep someday in the future. Sleepy without hope. That's parenthood.
Yeah, I don't like to gatekeep anything, but before I was a parent, I thought I knew what tired was, right? And you just get to this ridiculous stage, but it's fine. You do it for the love of your children, I think.
Yep, absolutely. We do a lot of things for children. I'm working really hard one day, so I can say I can afford children. So, okay, so it is 11. Let's go ahead and get started. I want to thank everyone here in the audience and thank our guests here. For those who don't know, this is SoulBound. We've got 4 guests here, and I'm going to actually let Keymaster, I think you're probably the best person to maybe introduce SoulBound just very briefly, and then I'll go ahead and get started in our discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. It's amazing to meet you. I'm Keymaster. I'm the head of community for SoulBound. We are a platform using NTSTs or non-transferable social tokens to develop a gaming proof of expertise and play system. Our big focus is on helping Web3 sort of reach that next evolutionary layer by making the experience of the individual player more filled with personal agency and starting to allow players to design and maintain the reputation across various games. So to do that, we're building a player profile system called SoulBound that will allow the building of quests that we can reward in our NTST, which we call MXP. It functions essentially like role-playing experience points. I have a feeling everybody here is aware of role-playing experience points. So we allow it to unlock a skill tree according to what the player values, including significant governance in in-game items in the games that you already play and love. So for instance, we have a huge asteroid in Influence called Pizza Planeta. We can talk about that later. That we are using primarily to create an onlining funnel for Web3 and Web2 gamers from across the ecosystem to discover and understand and love Influence, and then be connected to the alliances or start their own alliances that best suit them. So in that way, we are not a guild. We're not a centralized entity. Instead, what we're trying to do is create a system of tools and standards that allow players to organize and chart their own course, so to speak. We're building a lot out. There's a fair amount to get into. Obviously, I'll let the team kind of get into all of their specifics. But our ethos is to sort of definancialize a lot of the experience of blockchain or digital ownership within gaming, and make it much more about the game itself and the joy of the game. I think that's sort of a very top layer overview. Probably good to kind of jump over to Tony, maybe do a little introduction of the team.
Yeah.
No problem, Keymaster.
Yeah,
That's
please.
right. You're good. Right. So myself, my name's AI Mansbridge, Anthony Tony. I'm one of the founding core members of SoulBound. I'm also head of strategic operations. I deal a lot with the GameFi side of things here at SoulBound. I've been in blockchain since 2017. Prior to that, I had a short stint as a StarCraft Brood War pro gamer. I'm very aware of the space. I've been working with various guilds and things over the last 2 years to see how things have changed. And really, for me, I see this old shift from play to earn gaming as it was, and the infancy of blockchain game is something really, really exciting that if can be broached to, dare I say, traditional gaming and Web 2, what digital ownership of individual assets really means and the power that brings back to gamers. I want to sort of help nurture and create an ecosystem where instead of feeling like participants and the target audience or the product at worst of these games, that users actually feel like they're part of this ecosystem, preparing this bridge between end user and the developers and the people making these games. Because at heart, everyone got into making games because they love them, and it's become this sort of overall system quite negative and predatory. You only got to look at things like Diablo in the last couple of weeks to see, just how, when taken to the extreme, that can really be. And what really excites me about games like Influence is that with true player ownership and governance and direction, you can build a really social thing. If you look at games traditionally away from video gaming, they started as people being very social and working together to have fun. And that's what it should all be about in my mind. Anyway, I'll pass over to Dub, who's one of our community team.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and for me, I come from the 90s Nintendo era of gaming per se, and grew up on Super Smash Bros. And Star Fox and all that kind of stuff, and actually went into the sporting goods world before coming over here, and got to work on a really cool like wrestling play to earn kind of game experience to dip my toes into this ecosystem, and then join the Soulbound team. And since then have been kind of diving into actually playing the game and making that fun and seeing what that's about. So a lot of Pizza Planeta has been my work so far, and excited to dive into that after we kind of like introduce you all to Soulbound and what we're about here. Pass it over to Axel really quick
Yeah,
for an intro too.
so I'll take that final lead. And I'm Axel. I play games since I can recall. My first games were like Crash Team Racing and the first Rainbow Six and the good old FIFA. My experiences with the PS1 were amazing back then with my family, and something that I got to develop over the course of the years as I started playing in a more serious way games like Counter Strike. Mainly when it was launched, the CS:GO and the first seasons of League of Legends when they didn't even have servers all around the globe. It's that the evolution of gaming has been quite interesting for me. I come from a market where in Latin America, I don't know. I'm from Venezuela. I'm based in Argentina, and I have this experience that in this market, you could find pirate copies of games in flea markets and stuff. And what mattered at the end was playing, right? So children got around. I got friends, and we all got together, spending good times and good memories just for the fact of having fun by playing. It could be a really cool game. It could be a bad graphics one, but at the end, what mattered was that. And I think that the stage we are reaching now with blockchain gaming is that we have to make games more fun instead of centered in just the fact of money, with communities that they truly feel empowered and want to thrive together. We saw what happened last year when blockchain games started to boom in the bull market with everything that happened with Axie and so on. But now we are experiencing a stage in which people are creating and developing the structure for people to feel truly related and bonded when they are forming communities, and that's something that I truly value here. Since the moment I was checking your server, JP, is like it's so valuable to see how much people are interacting and they are getting really into being in touch with each other, and you can talk about whatever here and feel like in a family. So that's something that I wanted to highlight too. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you guys for introductions and just kind of giving your pulse on the industry. And I think something to touch on too is that we're at the beginning of, you know, well, we're in a bear market in the crypto, but I think what we're seeing is now the infancy of games being focused on playability, enjoyment, and growing community, rather than focusing strictly on, how do you extract as much value out of a game as fast as possible and then move on to the next thing. And I think that's where Soulbound, from my understanding, is really going to help bridge, community, and instead of having a profile in one game that's not connected to any others, you become, I think this is the way that you put it, is kind of that Steam achievement or the Xbox achievements that you can broadcast to showcase, all the things you've done in all these different games, and it proves, you are a player and you've done all these things across many games. And I think that is a core piece that is missing from blockchain gaming at this point, and I'm excited to see your platform grow. But before we get too far into the weeds of exactly what Soulbound does and how it does it, I think maybe we should talk about, you know, where we're at currently in this time of blockchain gaming, and where we definitely need to improve, and how we're going to get there. And I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Whoever wants to take the lead here is with the question of where we're at now, and how we get to where we all want to be, where we have a big ecosystem of fun games to play, and players have true ownership. What do you see as maybe some of the difficulties getting there, and how do we get over those hurdles?
Oh, I don't think it's actually all that difficult. I mean, or at least it's not complex. First, we have to make games people want to play because they want to play them, that are in and of themselves valuable as pieces of entertainment and social interaction, not just means of generating a proof of concept on income. And then second, we need to start honoring and encouraging the sort of natural organization and evolution that I think gamers are going to bring to the space. The idea that you can own something digitally that is actually yours, if you put that into the context of some of the early days of World of Warcraft, or old Quake clans, if we are able to allow people to sort of fractionalize into their particular groups and alliances and social structures that they're interested in participating in because they own those assets. We're going to give gamers an incredible voice in gaming generally that they've been lacking for the last 2 decades, and create games that are more and more meaningful and socially engaging. The more you do that, the more you're going to draw people in. I think on a certain level, crypto and GameFi are almost unrelated. The great criticism about crypto, and we don't care much about crypto, I'll be honest, is that it is a solution looking for a problem. Well, GameFi is a solution with a problem. Gaming culture needs rebalancing between the gamers and game developers. And digital ownership could give gamers a real voice in those ecosystems that right now they may not have, while unlocking entirely new ways of gaming we've never experienced before. It's an incredible time for that space. And in a certain way, tamping down the extreme speculation on the financial front is going to give the gaming side that space it needs to really flourish. Or at least that's how I see it. I think we're in an amazing time for blockchain games.
I completely agree. I mean, I look at examples of, let's say, World of Warcraft. We've all got a gaming history, and I've spent many years playing that game. And that had a grey market, they used to call it, of gold farming, of this layer of sort of some level of monetization that was bubbling away under the surface, not the forefront of the game. And if there's a way to legitimize that through player ownership of assets and the ability to sell and move on when you're finished, that's such a strong feeling that you're just not wasting time playing the games, right? You have this effort, this time you've put into these games that you enjoy playing, you love, um, but when you're finished with it, you have access to unload assets or use it as an alternative revenue stream, but not as a big monetizing thing, but just it happens to be part of it. In the same way an artist paints for the love of painting it, you don't have to become out selling canvases and doing things to try and make an income from it. It's just this option of proof of the work that you've done. Like it's incentive for people to actually own these things they're taking part of.
Yeah, and I think to kind of build off of that a little bit, I think you have to allow people the space to love a thing by being able to trust it. And when it is a purely financial conversation, you reduce trust sharply because, well, one, it's harder to trust when you're talking in a financial way. But two, it's the wrong motivation set, right? We want passion, joy, fun to bring more enjoyment to people's lives. And if we can do that in a way that is less predatory than current free to play cycles and so forth, all the better. What is Dungeons and Dragons like if you can actually own your sword is a really interesting and fun question as a game, independent of those financial concerns. And so we really want to push on that area while providing the tools for people, one, to track what they're doing in these worlds so their reputation remains their own between various experiences and games. But then two, to allow people to form more meaningful alliances by having tools sort of pre-built to sort and understand who is in your alliance, what they're really contributing, etc., and incentivize them and build around them, right? It's that organizational layer giving players that sort of, and players, alliances, communities, the power to organize and influence the games they play that we think is going to be so profound.
Yeah, you guys, I think, hit the nail on the head there. I don't have a ton to add to it. You guys have pretty much covered all the things that I think about all the time. And I guess what I would add is that I think in the last 18 months, things like that, you really saw people just being like they had dollar signs in their eyes versus love for games, and I think a shift towards love for games is actually better for dollar signs on the back end because you need lots of players. And an interesting statistic was, I think there were about 1.5 million people in total that were buying and trading NFTs in the last 18 months. And it's hard to tell exactly the number of people, but that's basically the number of wallet addresses that were actively kind of buying and selling NFTs. And 1.5 million people is not a lot of people. When you think about 2.7 billion gamers currently play video games. So you bring in players, you make them, you give them things they can have fun with, and then you add in the ability to own those assets, and you create an ecosystem that is, exponentially bigger than what we currently have. And that's all we need to do is make games that are fun to play, I think, to really get people in there. So I'm excited to be at the forefront of this, and I'm excited to have you guys as part of that. So I think this might be a good segue into potentially talking about, how exactly your platform works and what it does for the player. I know we got an overview of it, but I'd love to know a little bit more about if I am someone who maybe has a guild, how do I integrate or how do I utilize SoulBound to, have fun, expand my alliance or guild or corporation, whatever they want to call it, and then just, explore the ecosystem through SoulBound.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say very quickly, John Paul, that feeling goes both ways, and that we think one of the things that really impressed us about Influence was how much your community trusts you, and how clear it is that you're here to make something that's specific and idiosyncratic and unique, right? And so we're really thrilled to be able to be a part of that, and be talking to people that are clearly here to make something very interesting. As to how Soulbound can help. So fundamentally, Soulbound is a system of proof of engagement through a quest platform. We're using both on and off-chain quests. Obviously, right now when games are not launched, we're using a lot more on-chain quests, just proof of participation. We can reward POAPs, we can reward with non-transferable NFTs and tokens. We have a kind of that kind of reward system around these various quests. So we are building it such that we can offer our NTST, MXP, that's a lot of letters, but our non-transferable social token, MXP, but also community-specific experience points to build around your alliance or corporation, or what you want to call yourself, to incentivize your community to do what you find valuable. And so that includes in-game actions as well as out-of-game social participation, or participation in governance, whatever it is you're trying to incentivize. And you can attach to those quests your whitelisted experience points, as well as other approved NFTs. We do want to make sure that everything is safe and somebody doesn't use something maliciously. But assuming that it is approved NFTs, other game tokens, so that you can customize the way that you are incentivizing and rewarding your particular community according to what you value. Um, from there, we think that there is a tremendous amount of potential for flexibility and customization, and it's our goal to sort of not tell you what to do or how to run your community. We give you the metrics. You'll know which of your players has the most of your experience points and other people's experience points, and why. And as an organization, it'll be up to you to determine what is most valuable in a potential member in order to filter. But it means that instead of, I have not run a guild personally, but Tony has, and his description of the experience sounded a little bit painful. So maybe Tony, do you want to go through how Soulbound can streamline that a little bit?
Sure, certainly can. One thing I'd bring about quickly to sort of explain, I know it's a lot of acronyms thrown at you guys really quickly, but the way we see NTSTs, or non-transferable social tokens, it's a system where if you think of it as a good analogy might be Steam achievements points, or Xbox Gamer Score, PlayStation trophies, sort of like a little NFTs, this kind of system. And the idea behind it is that it would build up a player profile that's unique to each person playing any sort of game across all these different areas, that would act almost like a gaming CV. It's what we like to term proof of play, like a reputation status for gamers. Somewhere between LinkedIn and a CV, right? But more gamified, a lot more fun. It's something that you personally own. You own all these achievements that you've done. It allows players to have this ability to be quantified, and you can assess someone and find out who are the value additive players within your ecosystem. Right? Imagine you finishing playing a game. You say FPS as an example is nice and easy, but imagine you hit Prestige 10 playing Call of Duty, right? And then not only is that recognized by your guild, but also by games themselves. They would then be able to turn around and say, "Oh, this guy's obviously good. The skills are transferable. Let's give him a leg up playing Valorant or something else similar in that kind of vein." So the actual advantage to individuals. Sorry, are you there, Axel? Or is it just Mike playing up?
Yeah, no, yeah. I wanted to add something because you mentioned the FPS part, and it reminds me of actually in Counter-Strike CS:GO you have these little badges that you get when you complete your the operations. Operations are what you call them seasons, right? So you have Operation Phoenix, Operation whatever, and if you completed some missions on it, some quests, you would get a badge, and that badge would display on your player profile for a long time. Like for you would decide which one you show in each match, but you will have it on your profile embedded. And as well, if you play the game, if you open the first version of Counter-Strike, let's say I don't know 1.6, and you played some hours on it 5-10 years ago, you would receive a badge. And then what happens when you play against people like this, you know that these are players, right, that have a reputation, that they do know how to play the game, they have been playing for a while, and this is a way to record track what they have done and how they have built, and this is part of the legacy itself. So as I was replying, one of the questions that appear in text is that we're social human beings, right? And we need to track one way or another how we contribute into stuff. And games have proved themselves that as long as you contribute, like world form games, you can be part of something that's meaningful and life changing. You can think of the raids that happen in RuneScape when people got together, or how you could form a team. Taking back the example on FPSs, right? It's a personal example. I was displaying the badges that I got on my CS:GO team, and I was able to get into an American team and then play with them and do strategies, and they pay attention to me because I was showing those things that I obtained, those badges that I obtained by playing, that were embedded to my personal profile. The difference is that this is all centralized by Steam, right? So they created a market and whatever around their skins and so on, but before they were start making a huge ton of money with the skins and whatever that happened in game, there was the sense of belonging attached to the game itself that was being built for years and years, since the first version until that one that took the esports into a next level. So yeah, that was what you made me thought of, Tony, when you said FPS. Go ahead, you can continue.
Oh, awesome. And that's a good point, because like within these individual games, you do have these ways of picking out good people. If you're aware of a game system, you play any game, this person has a title, or they have certain gear from an MMO, or they have something that distinguishes them as talented and good at the game. What we're trying to build here with Soulbound is that, but linked to a person, or an avatar, I should say. It doesn't necessarily have to be doxed, but it's linking it to an account that's provable and swappable from game to game to game. So it's something that, all those hours wasted playing one game aren't wasted hours if you've enjoyed it and used it and created a skill base and proof of play in that game, and your ability to transfer that from game to game, I should say. What's interesting is, as an individual gamer, having all these game assets and NFTs and things being able to view through our platform in one place, we actually go a step above that with this gamification level within the Soulbound platform. So you'd be able to earn experience points, or metaverse experience points, as you achieve quests and hit targets and things that have been set by other gamers, have been set by guilds and clans, and have been set by game developers looking to push content as well. which would then allow you to spend those points down a skill tree, leveling up rewards, and choosing how you are rewarded by these various entities through our platform. Which basically allows you to connect and display your player achievements across the whole metaverse. We're working with a few different games to do this. I can't actually tell you that because that's alpha. NDAs, unfortunately, with links, but there's some exciting things on the horizon. Regarding I don't like using the term guilds at the moment. Guilds has a very almost negative connotation in the space with the sort of very extractive models. But let's say clans, communities, groups, and guilds to some extent. What this allows these collections of gamers to do is to also reward their members, their players, with specific NFTs and specific experience points linked to them, which can help assess how individuals and teams are performing. It also allows you to push time-limited content, such as guild-specific quests or raids, missions, seasonal events, groups, things like this. And it's a way that you can then also reward participants within your ecosystem, within your own little clan, for specific tasks that the guild or the collective want to be achieved. It also allows sort of an onboarding and headhunting gaming talent, because everyone there using the platform has a list, like almost their personal resume or CV of gaming, what they're good at. We're also talking a lot with game developers directly, people like Influence. It allows them to attract really strong value additive players. They are able to set these quests, these tasks, which is a system where basically gamers playing games they love can get partnered with new experiences, right? You can say, oh, this event is happening, here's an incentive reward to do that. If you're already playing a game, why not earn extra things on top of it? And that can be, systems that the game developers really want to try and explore this content. And there's a new map, there's a new event out. Let's encourage all these players to actually interact with that and do that, whilst earning little things for themselves in terms of reputation, in terms of, in some cases, monetization, special limited time events, skins. It's sort of driving specific player action in games, and in the metaverse in general. So with other platforms, Discord, specific maps, beta testing, socials, recruitment. It's sort of an all-round general hype and awareness cross-promotional tool, if you think of it that way.
Yeah, but I think in general, our real goal is to focus on and allow the idiosyncrasies of each one of these games and the communities that form around them to express themselves by being as flexible as possible with how people organize. And looking for those opportunities where we can help the ecosystems that we're working with thrive. So, for instance, right now, we're working with Influence on an educational onboarding system so that potential new players that enter into Influence and are looking for alliances or forming their own corporations have a certain base level of understanding of the game, especially a game that is as esoteric as Influence can be. Making sure that players have some basic understanding seems like a first step in increasing the general competency of the player base, and thus how fun the game can be down the line. I but we're actually hoping to invite everyone listening today and in the Influence community to help us figure out what those questions should be, because we have a feeling there's somebody out there that has a much stronger and better informed opinion about specifically what somebody must understand to excel at this game. And that's what we want to do when we're interacting with any of these ecosystems or communities, is let them tell us what they need to thrive, and then be the wind beneath their wings by giving them that organizational layer and support to reach that next stage of finding the player base and the community and the systems that are going to make the game live long term.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a little hard to picture exactly what this looks like, and why I think it's so powerful, and why I think this talk is valuable to our community as a whole. But there is a lot to understand and influence, and anyone who's been here for a while knows. I mean, go look at our wiki. I mean, there's more than like I think there's like 100,000 words or more throughout our wiki that we've written over the last year and change. And while we don't expect all of our community to have read all of that, alliances that are trying to recruit players are probably going to, over time, be pretty picky on the prerequisites of joining. Not because they're trying to be gatekeepers and like create a culture that's only XYZ, but because you can only support so many people, and so seeing the people who actually spend the time at the very least to understand, the basics or whatever that alliance may want, is a really really important first step, and it's not something that influence is going to build. We're not building that part of it, but having an ecosystem that traverses many games can support this is what Soulbound is doing, and so people in the audience who may be considering building an alliance or already have one, it's not something that I'm saying go do this now. You're going to lose it if you don't. But it's something to consider. Think about potentially what are the things that are important to you and your alliance, and how can we, support that, and we can talk to Soulbound and try and get something set up that will very, very, you know, seamlessly allow you to funnel people into your alliance. And then all of a sudden, because as the ecosystem expands, you can basically headhunt people. And I think that's going to be something that is very maybe it's hard to grasp now, but in my 8 years of playing World of Warcraft at the time and being really competitive at it, our alliance was very strict on who we let in, and it was always quite the task to figure out like who they are, what they're doing, and you pretty much just look at their gear and maybe try and talk to previous alliances that they've been in. But with a platform like Soulbound, you won't have to do that. It'll be all on chain data that you can gather, and I think that's going to be something really interesting.
I certainly remember those eras of, inspecting someone's WoW gear, making an application to a guild on a forum, and it was this sort of like rudimentary gaming resume, right? Like, I have done these things in this game. I promise you I can play this game. I will be on time, and all this stuff. And to be able to quantify that data and tie it to a player account, then it's just there out in the open on the blockchain that anyone can see these achievements. It just makes this thing so much easier. And like I said, with your onboarding thing for influence, we have a rudimentary proof of concept working at the moment where you can click through, you can answer questions, and you get them right, you are rewarded something that says like, look, you've achieved very base knowledge of the game, and there's no reason that can't scale up to become more and more complicated for a full understanding. So end up with this little diploma that says I know my stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think that's going to become more and more important. Now, it may not be as important in a game like Axie, where the baseline knowledge to play it isn't quite, or isn't nearly as high as a strategy game like Influence. But I think it's going to have a lot of it's going to help a lot of people as we get more and more depthful games in this ecosystem. So I think unless you guys have some things you really want to touch on right now, I'd love to see if our community has questions. Um, if you guys do have questions, feel free to raise your hand. We can bring you up on stage. Otherwise, please type in that Soulbound discussion channel or thread right underneath our general channel. And we would love to just kind of explore your questions. We've got 4 people from their team. This is a rare opportunity to, discuss with a new, platform that's, growing and hopefully going to help influence a lot. So, feel free to ask those questions, and we'd love to get this discussion going around what the community would like to know. while maybe you guys are thinking of questions, if any of you guys up here on stage have more to tell or show, feel free to put some of those things in the Soulbound discussion channel as well. Maybe some images of potentially what you guys are building will help, shake some people's heads around and get some questions as well.
We have the question from BR Hayes. How do we deal with negativity? With Tony, how would you reply to this? Because this something interesting that he's saying. It's that the players that become those who have the god complex are truly like they play really good, but they behave like no. So how is this on the blockchain? Instead of getting a permaban like it happened once to me in League of Legends, I lost my first account. What would you say to it?
Well, I think this is part of. Sorry, Tony, not to jump in.
No, you're good.
But I think it's in part why we are looking towards the Players Assembly, which is our sort of in-game governance slash sort of neutral meeting point for people to discuss how MXP should be valued and how TSTs should be valued. But also, it's why we're letting each community kind of create their own experience points so that they'll be able to determine how they value that and who should be valued with that. When we look at this kind of thing, we have we have a feeling that at the end of the day, these MTSTs or soulbound tokens or however you want to describe them, these non-transferable assets are going to function a little bit like college credits in that different communities are going to have to decide which communities credits are valuable and which aren't and to what degree, and that is going to be a complex and emerging paradigm, and it's going to take, I think, experimentation and making mistakes and being prepared to make some of those mistakes, which is part of the reason we're going to be starting with a test net, because we expect for the first couple of experiments to go sideways as we really start to master how to make this work for the long term.
I think
Oh,
a good detailed example too is like with imagine a guild that's focused on trading and being a merchant and identifies some players that are cheating and smuggling in these merchant tradings, and they decide to create a label for them that's these guys are kind of like pirates or space pirates, and they get the space pirate label. Well, that is them giving like this negative kind of slap on the wrist, but maybe there's another guild that wants to acquire those pirates and is like, okay, well, they all those people with that pirate badge, I'm gonna go and make them an offer or something.
and just to jump in quickly, I think Soulbound isn't necessarily a how you, or it tracks actions and what you're doing, not necessarily how you're interacting with other players. It's pretty hard to track, like, did you yell at someone in a game chat room or something like that. So reputation wise, I think that might be a separate integration, not necessarily bound to Soulbound, and it is something that I think is important over time, and that's why you see things like in League of Legends where you can report people for offensive language, things of that nature. But I think that's going to be more independent to the games versus kind of a cross ecosystem thing, because it's hard too, because a lot of times you might just get a bunch of people reporting you because they want to be dicks as well. So you don't necessarily want that to be then bound to your entire profile across all games. So it's a challenging question for on-chain tracking of that type of stuff, but I am excited to see where the ecosystem goes with that. We do have someone from the community up here. Um, uh, Please feel free to, if you wanted to expand on your question or interject here, go right ahead.
Um, Hi, yeah. Can you hear me? Probably.
All
Yeah,
good?
yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, no, thanks for the answer. Yeah, I wasn't expecting a really straightforward answer for this because I do also see all the difficulties, right? Um, but that is really something which I've experienced with other players, especially when you also talk about League of Legends, right? And then like there are players who are quite skilled, more than average, but then yeah, they're not so good with other players in a community that is not really welcomed, right? Like the toxicity, saltiness, or whatever. I would rather have a average player person in my guild rather than an arrogant top player. um, but thanks for the answer. I think it's really going to be quite a difficult journey, especially because all the things what we deal with on the blockchain are immutable, right? Or at least we want it to be immutable. So it becomes quite a challenge that like also Etherway said, oh, if a bunch of people report someone, do you really want it across the multiverses on your ID?
That's the
Yeah,
magic
actually,
of communities, I think. Sorry for interrupting, Keymaster.
no, you
But
go. You go,
I
Axel. You
wanted
go.
to say that that's the magic of communities, right? When you are playing a game a lot of hours and you realize that there is somewhat of toxicity around it, but then you identify cool people, you can do something with them to make the game better, right? To make the experience better itself. So this is what I said before, the sense of belonging. It's so important, and it's something that it starts from people being empathetic to others, right? And regardless of differences in skill level, you cannot just go around them and trash talking for the sake of trash talking or blaming them for losing. It's like that takes a game, that takes the other players nowhere, and that takes the game itself nowhere. So that's why I guess some games have had that to do that, to implement those things. And I think it's important because it helps as well to fight bully and so on. But it's on each of us to make the ecosystem better, the gaming ecosystem better, and to take action to grow communities around the different games ecosystems and such. I think that's important. You can go ahead now, Guy.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that. I think what you said was so important, which was, I would rather play with good people that are mediocre than somebody who's great and awful to deal with. And I think it's about what you value, right? And what the community you're building values. And by the way, that I would agree, right? That sounds right to me too. But maybe there's 10 people out there that really just want to be horrible and toxic together, and they can go off and be in their own little pod and play their own little game. But you can create a community where, because you're able through Soulbound to make your quests that you reward according to what you value, you get to decide what to incentivize within your community, meaning what quests to make. And how to reward them. And so we think a big part of that will come through communities deciding how to interpret the record that Soulbound provides, right? Because not every community is going to be looking for the same kind of person, and not every person is going to be looking for the same kind of community. And so, if we can allow the right communities to find the right people, then we're going to allow this whole thing to grow and really thrive for everybody. And so, I think that's our goal, right? We're less concerned about like the esports nature of it. We're working with groups that are very focused in esports. We love esports, but our focus is more about allowing people to value what they value in their play experience and maximize towards that kind of community structure, no matter what shape it might take for any individual group.
Awesome, awesome. I think that's a really, really great answer. And I think it's really nice, especially for for the guilds like us who are really like building traditional kind of guild in the space, not really like the play to one thing, because then it makes sense on what you say for sure. Yeah, thank you for your answer. I also have another question, but I think that can be answered in text, right? So just to the second one, how to stay connected. So thanks. I'll go off now.
Yeah, we'll do that towards the end. I'm sure everyone will want to know that. But yeah, thank you for coming up. And then RGR, I think you were next. So yeah, come on up and ask your question.
Hey, I just had a question about community quests or an alliance generated quest. and alliance experience points. If there's a way to measure, like will they have, or will SoulBound have metrics associated with that? In the sense that influence is going to have, a lot of crews that are going to be specialized in one thing or another, and I imagine that there's going to be some quests in an alliance that's going to be like a reoccurring quest that would be, like mine X amount of X resource. Will there be some way to track, how many of those recurring quests that a player has done to kind of like weed out, who's like in your alliance, like who's like the top guy to go to for mining, or like create I guess a subgroup inside the alliance or something to that nature. And as experience points, would it be able to see the difference from last month to this month, if they've done more or done less? So essentially metrics around those two items.
Yeah, so I think the short answer is yes. We're working on making that as useful as possible of a system for tracking the real value that players are bringing to the communities that they play with. That'll probably take a couple of different shapes, and I won't pretend I am not the tech team. Though, if you come over to our Discord and toss questions on in the GameFi area, Anti-Mage will come and talk, and he is the tech team, or is one of the members. Uh, but Soulbound involves both non-transferable NFTs and non-transferable tokens. So the non-transferable tokens are more of the experience points layer that lets the player unlock the rewards that they are most excited by through a skill tree within the Soulbound ecosystem. Uh, but and of course, the alliance experience points would serve a similar function, but probably within a skill tree that is associated with the alliance specifically. That might include a mining section, right, where you unlock your mining tree to unlock certain social layers for just the miners, and then certain benefits for elite miners and that kind of thing. You can also with the same quests, you can attach non-transferable NFTs to record individual actions or moments. So we should have the ability to track both who is regularly mining as an event, as well as who in the elite mining group is generating the most experience points generally through interacting with the most incentivized quests, right? So there will be a lot of flexibility as to how you can build those incentive structures around what you think is going to work best for your community. But our goal is to provide the tools to allow that flexibility and trackability.
Oh, that's awesome. That's way more comprehensive than I was expecting. That's great to hear.
I need to upload this
Sorry.
quiz thing. 1 second. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
If I don't answer your question, it's because I'm trying to figure out how to upload it. I'm gonna do it in the Soulbound the subsection of general because I'm good and I follow directions, Jean Paul.
Yeah. So next up, Dub, sorry, where I don't know where you went, but you're back in the audience. Thank you for your question, RGR. Julius, you're up next.
Hey guys, can you read me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Actually, I was reading about in your website, and you know, I really want to know: is it based on the time I spend in the game? This is how I gain, for example, MXP, or is it based on achievements in the game? How is it calculated and granted?
So generally, the questing system works by an individual or a guild or a collective, or the game developers themselves set up this quest, which is a clear statement of what you'd have to do to complete that task, and then you'd be given rewards based off of that, so you know what you'd be earning to do. There could be a system that would be how much time you're spending in a game specifically, but it's much easier, certainly in the early stages, rather than playtime. There may well be a playtime amount. You've hit a certain threshold, and here's an reward. But it's more like really easy to detect on-chain tasks right now. So, visit an asteroid, do an example quest. It would be own this asset, join this guild, things like that's really easy to detect at the moment. But we are working with game developers directly to have access to APIs, and access information from that will be able to quantify what people are actually doing in game.
Okay, and how is the Soulbound can counter actually bots? For
So
example, I
how are
can
we
write a
countering
bot, and
bots?
yeah, yeah, I can write a bot easily, and it plays instead of me. Actually, it's a bot. It plays, it gains achievements. For example, in guild quests. How do you counter that?
It's a very tricky system, bots. Now, bots are something that have always existed and are probably always going to exist at some point. We are going to try and find ways. I mean, I suppose it's more of a tech question for the tech team to think about. But certainly we are aware of this being an issue. The actual implementation of which is to try and make quests revolve around as much human interaction and social things as possible to preclude people from this. Like I said, you're always going to find people out there that are going to try and gamify and cheat systems through the use of bots. But there are people in the space who have far more technical knowledge than me that will be able to set up a way to combat this as best we can. Be my answer.
Yeah, and I think on the community side, we try to keep the most significant benefits and rewards with something of an air gap, meaning we're creating this reputational system and giving you the ability to kind of tell who is valuable at least as an initial indicator. But it doesn't have to be the last threshold. So you might get somebody applying who has just a crazy soulbound score, but can't string two sentences together and is behaving very erratically. Maybe that's an indication that we need to tighten up and make sure that bots can't get through. That's never happened. We don't have this going on right now, but there will be the ability on the social side to weed out who's real as well from a personality side. I think that's part of our focus is to build that social interaction and significance, so that it's more than just numbers on a screen, and more than just trying to pump your score. Because at the end of the day, you can get a lot of MXP, but you can't sell MXP. So you can't just bot farm it for what you can get into more opportunities that you'll have to put real effort into through playing the game in order to take any benefit from. Our goal in part is complexity. By making it a little bit more complex, it becomes harder to just straight bot the system.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because it's rewarding these activities as a proof of play. If you are someone that has gamified and cheated the system using a bot, there's no monetary ability to extract from this. It just proves that you have played this game, and then it comes to an actual raid or an event and you don't know what you're doing. It's very evident that you cheated the system to get there, and the community will swiftly move to be like, actually, this isn't legit. You haven't achieved these things, even though it's like you go for a job interview with a fake CV. I've 400 years experience in this job area, and you go to the interview and they quite quickly work out that no, you don't. So it's the same sort of system there.
Yeah. So judging from both you guys' answers, I came to realize that the platform has two functions. Definitely, one is reporting. For example, as a player, I can report another player extraordinary activities, and the banning function. Actually, you can ban someone who is cheating, and it's with evidence. Actually, am I right?
I mean, possibly, yeah. What it does do is it does allow you to see people, and if someone has a crazy activity, if most people playing the system who are known in the game, you've got a lot of guys from certain guilds in here, and if they're like, level 8 or 9, and they've worked their way through, and then there's a dude that's just sitting at level 35, but no one's ever spoken to him, no one's seen him do anything in game, it's quite clear to pick out and pick these people out as negative players in the space. But yeah, so that kind of makes sense. You could use it as a tool to help weed out people that are suspicious.
I also want to
Okay, guys.
jump in
Thank
and
you.
maybe explore the bot
Thanks, Julius.
question a little bit more, and I think it's I've been trying to formulate a really good way to put this, and I recently watched a movie while trying to zone out called Free Guy, where it's basically a world of NPCs. And the thing about NPCs is that they actually add value. They add value to the story. So in World of Warcraft, you walk up to an NPC, you learn things from them. You talk to them, you get quests, you buy skills, whatever it might be. If you're a bot in a game that is programmed well enough to provide value to other players, then that is valuable. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I think we have, like, it's a shift, a psychological shift to to embrace particular types of bots and not be too afraid of them, because at the end of the day, if you're playing a game and having fun, regardless of who's around you, whether it's a bot or a real person, it's about your experience. So I think not worrying about, oh, this bot has a billion MXP points, because it doesn't really matter, because MXP isn't transferable, and you're not going to go buy that. Bot is a bot, and so it's not going to like abuse that system. In a game like Influence, it might actually be adding value. You going to recruit that bot to your guild? Probably not, because you want to have human interaction within players in an alliance or guild. So I like to think about it that way. And then, yeah, we have another question from Tiflo. Feel free. Also, we are coming up against time. Soulbound team, are you guys comfortable staying a little bit longer?
Oh yeah, we're good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So Tiflo, go for it.
Hey guys, yeah, thanks very much. That's actually a great question about the bots. That's kind of inspired a lot of ponderance on my part. It was actually a really detailed system, and there's a lot of aspects to it. But I was wondering if you mentioned that Soulbound is going to be customizable. And so I was, but like in this AMA, we've been talking, it seems like, mostly about gaming, and I was just wondering if I use focus mostly on stuff that we can, like ways that we can apply these soulbound tokens to gaming, or are you also considering all the ways that we can like integrate it with Discord and stuff like that? Because I've had a personal experience, and I wonder if I could share a little bit about that after.
Oh, we would love personal experiences. I mean, we see this as something that honestly didn't exist 2 years ago that we're building together in every way. But to answer your question, when we say gaming, we mean both the game itself and the culture around it. So we're definitely building towards being able to keep track of Discord participation and other social engagements that communities might find valuable.
Yeah, sweet. Nice one. Because what happened in my case was that I'm a part of an NFT group, a project, launched, and I've been feeling like there's a lot of accusations that get thrown at teams when sort of they can't control market conditions, or maybe their project wasn't particularly successful, and people tend to throw around the word rug pull. And so I was in this group, and one of the people who used to be the community leader and a close friend of mine, they had a I don't know, a bad personal opinion about the team, and they actually left about 6 months ago. And then just the other day, I kind of recognized his writing style and realized that he had been still hanging around in the Discord server for like the last 6 months, pretending to be different people, and kind of just going over the same stuff that he'd said multiple times, where I have a different opinion to what he had, but he thinks he's right, and he just wants to kind of keep dragging the dirty laundry out of the laundry for the for the last 6 months. And so I'm just wondering, is there going to be like an adjustment that people are going to have to make as like community members, where we sort of have to do the background check on whoever it is that's behind the account that's making the accusations, and what ways can SBTs sort of protect teams from kind of the lynch mob that we seem to see in the NFT communities?
Well, it's not a perfect answer, but I'd say one beginning is, with I'm going to say MXP because that's our generic soulbound experience points, but replace that with whatever your community's experience points are called. I By gating access and significance within your community by those experience points and non-transferable NFTs, you make the ability to create 15 or 16 sock puppet accounts that all have the same opinion a lot more difficult, or at least you can make one account that has all of the reputational bonuses that get them into the rooms where the real discussions are happening, and then they can have 15 accounts that can't get past the front door because they don't have the requisite experience points. Now, I suppose, could they go out and just earn enough experience points to build out 16 different profiles to then come back to tell you you're a jerk 16 different times? I don't know that we will ever solve that 0.01% of internet culture that can really fixate in a negative way. All we can do is try to build guardrails around it and limit it. I'm not sure Soulbound will, in and of itself, eradicate the need for moderators and other high touch community management. But I think it can be a very effective tool in gating a lot of the worst of that behavior and starting to engage and enrich your engagement with the quality community members that do show up and distinguish themselves so that you don't lose track of them.
Yeah, solid. Thank you very much.
So we have a question in the general chat that was asked: do guilds as a whole earn MXP, and how that might work if you are, not wanting to, it's almost a competition of alliances or guilds at this point versus, individuals. Is this something that Soulbound is going to support?
Yeah, I think I kind of touched on that one, that we are looking at building a system where guilds and clans and things themselves can create a page for their organization on the platform where individual users can visit it, and then they can be earning experience points as a group, which gives a sort of level to a guild. I think of, again, using WoW references, the old, what was the gates of something, it was where they opened up that desert area, where it was a server-wide achievement to try and collect all these resources to open up the dungeon. And be able to have gates like this for a whole guild to do. You can see your guild level, how good all of your community is, and then you can compare and contrast those against other communities, allowing these collectives to show off their achievements that they've done as a group. We have downed this raid boss, we have done this, we have this many planets, we have this kind of thing. But also then act as a recruitment hub to attract individual players that match their kind of ethos around that.
Yeah, speaking more to that, we also see it as the opportunity to have sort of a neutral ground for guilds and alliances to have friendly competition. Let's say, at the end of the day, we could either argue about who gets what slice of the current pie, or we could try to grow the pie explosively. And we're more interested in that second option. So we see it as, if we have alliances competing against each other in some really entertaining and fun way, well, that just excites everybody's community, draws more excitement around the space in general, and gets more and more people into the space and discovering the alliances and guilds and communities that are best suited to them. So, in general, we want to make sure the guilds are able to represent themselves as effectively as possible.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that from a games perspective, like influence. This is where we'll work with Soulbound to maybe make some really, really challenging achievements that are really only able to be completed by a large group of people. And therefore, that becomes almost a guild achievement rather than an individual achievement. Like in World of Warcraft, when you were collecting resources for months before I think they opened what was called like the Sunwell, or something. It might have been a little. It's been a while since I've played World of Warcraft, but that was something that was incredibly. Actually, I have some friends that play classic servers right now, and they did that recently, where it's, there are top guilds on a server, or proud to be like, well, we put in the equivalent of like 500,000 gold worth of like time and effort into collecting these materials around all, the world to unlock these gates and then be the first to down the bosses as well. And they were almost competing against their servers. So they wanted to get that gate open faster than anyone else, go in and complete the boss, and then they would be able to post just for bragging rights, being like, here's the date and time we downed this boss. And I think what's cool about blockchain is there is a record of it, and so it becomes extremely easy to quantify that way. So I think that's something that we'll work to integrate with Soulbound over time, is having those types of achievements show up and be badges, not only in influence, but kind of like Steam or Xbox badges as well.
One thing I wanted to mention, we've been focusing a little bit on guilds, clans, collectives, whatever we're calling them, but also the questing system is going to enable to empower individual users that might not necessarily have the time or dedication or want to be part of a very large guild, but allow them to create quests for specific content that they're doing. An example would be, you need 9 other players to go and kill whatever boss, whatever instance, some event in the game. I need help with this. As an individual, you could post a quest that says, I'm looking to give out this as a reward along with MXP, but you can give your own rewards if someone helps me do this achievement in game. So you're basically asking, almost like a job board for metaverse games at this point, right? An individual can come along and post, I need help with this event. Please help me for it. This is what I'm willing to offer you guys. And then between, it's a tool set that empowers not only these large guilds, but down to the individual user, where they'd be able to create things they want, ask help for to the general public, which is certainly a lot easier than jumping through different Discord things. And if you're not that integrated in the community, is a way to get yourself integrated into communities through this platform.
So we're towards the end of this talk. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, audience and on stage. I did want to give you guys the opportunity to maybe Dub explain a little bit about how you're going to be utilizing the asteroid that you guys own, the huge, and creating Pizza Planeta.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the first thing to say is that when we say pizza, I mean, really, we're just talking about food right now. We totally aren't here to force pizza upon everything and make pizza everywhere. Of course, we want that, but really, the point of Pizza Planeta is to provide a place for people to kind of train and go on to like the next step of learning this game, and then being like, as you had coined it, like a sorting hat of a place for people to find what they want to do in the game. We'll definitely have like pizza rolls for each type of role that people want to do in Adalia, whether that's mining or being a pilot or whatnot. I mean, of course, we need delivery drivers. And it's just about giving people that opportunity to kind of train up, find a skill that they like, and then at the end, we want to have like a quiz system where they can essentially take a quiz, talk about themselves and what they want to do in this game, and then ultimately be matched with an alliance that is looking for that player based off the quiz answers that the alliance actually answers as well.
Yeah, we're actually going to be posting a Twitter thread that kind of goes over our vision for Pizza Planeta and how it relates to our, we use the phrase gardeners, not farmers, sort of approach to the games that we work with. So that again is the beginning of a conversation, and we'd love for anybody who is curious or has some solid ideas about what is needed in that kind of onboarding system. We're going to be continuing that conversation in our Discord a lot. I think we're going to be opening a Pizza Planeta channel in the very near future so that we can start discussing how we can really contribute to the influence ecosystem as a whole and help all of the alliances thrive and find the right players.
Yeah, and specifically like for actually making pizza with our planet, we're missing ammonia, which is one of the key ingredients in the production chain for food. And that's something that we'll have to either, trade our excess resources for, or, we're going to be active players pursuing to spread pizza across the galaxy, essentially, is really the mission here.
I love it. For anyone who's wondering about this, if you haven't looked at the production chains, we've got a big production chain posted for food, and SoulBound's basically, coining food as pizza. And so the mission and to help sort people throughout the belt into other alliances is going to be utilizing their huge Type C asteroid to produce food, and then through that, you'll have merchants, pilots, all the 5 classes doing separate things, and then you'll be earning MXP, and then alliances can see who's done what, and then be able to, basically headhunt those players to get them into their alliance. And I think it's going to be a really powerful way to onboard people into this game, especially because SoulBound is going to have a lot of games on their platform. And so you're going to have players from all different types of games being able to see the missions that they can complete in Influence. And then they'll kind of funnel them to Pizza Planeta. And then from there, they'll bleed into the rest of the belt. So I think it's going to be a really good way to kind of go full circle on our platform. I want to, and then I think unless you guys have anything else you really want to get to, we can close this out by some how can the community members here in the audience connect with you guys more and learn more about SoulBound.
Well, the absolute easiest way is to head over to our Discord right now. That's where we're hanging out. That's where you can interact with us directly. We have websites, telegrams, and things like that as well. But really, coming over to our Discord, seeing what we're about, we love that community feedback, because ultimately we're building these tools for people like you, the end user, to help enhance their gaming experience. And if you guys have ideas, you say, oh, this is good, this is bad, or I really see that this could be something you guys could use, we're looking for help, not necessarily to full contribution level, but that's always an option too. But if you have just any idea or any way that we can best serve you as the general community, please let us know.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for the time. Sorry, Axel, did you have something you wanted to say? Well, thank you guys, everyone, for showing up. This has been a lot of fun having SoulBound here. The Discord link to join their Discord, if you'd like to, is in that thread for SoulBound discussion below general. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All our guests, thank you as well. And hope everyone has a good day. If you have follow-up questions here, please feel free to post them again in that SoulBound discussion, and I'll try and answer as much as I can. And if I can't, I'll try and get one of these guys up here on stage to respond to you. But again, join their Discord if you want to, help build this out and bring, I think more life into blockchain gaming and the ecosystem that we're all trying to create here.
Oh, thank you very much, JP. Yeah, excellent. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're absolutely thrilled. Influence is one of our favorite games and favorite communities. We love how serious everybody takes it. That's what we're looking for, and so we would love to help and look forward to more conversations in the future as we bring more things to you.
Awesome. Well, take care, everyone. Again, have a great day, and we'll talk to you guys soon. And as SoulBound grows, I think we'll probably have you guys on again to showcase some more of the features that you guys are building.
Definitely. Thanks so much.
Okay.